Hello and welcome to Xena Warrior Podcast. My name is Vera and I'm joined as always by my two undulating co-hosts, Katie.
Hi.
And Livy.
Hello. A little bit sexual this week. Was that deliberate?
Is there
100% deliberate.
Sensual music playing somewhere?
Oh yeah. We are in season 3.
Oh my god.
Officially.
Wow.
Although the first 2 episodes of the season were filmed for season 2.
Yes, I think they had originally had an episode order of 24 episodes, and then the network scaled it back to 22. So these 2 have been booted off season 2 and glued onto the top of season 3. I think it's wild, though, because the Furies is a very appropriate premiere episode for season 3. Thematically, it really fits. It's wild to me that it actually was meant to be somewhere in, towards the end of season 2.
Maybe they were trying to get away from Poseidon, swing it back around to Aries. Because technically speaking, I was like, what? Why is Aries suddenly having a beef with Xena?
Considering, you mean his appearance
Considering
in
how,
10 Little Warlords.
Yeah, it's been a while, and he should not be having a beef.
He always has a beef.
Yeah.
He, sometimes has, temporary armistice because their needs align for a second. But even in Warlords, he was being a little bitch to her. He waited those 20 minutes before turning her back into her own body. That wasn't cool. That was the beef talking.
So this week we are only talking about the Furies.
That's correct. That's the plan.
That's the plan. So why don't we start discussing it? Throw on the Furies, written by R.J. Stewart and directed by Gilbert Shilton.
Who?
Exactly. He will not direct anymore, and apparently there was some animosity between him and a certain star of the show.
Uh-oh.
Research seemed to imply that this episode had a very troubled production in general, that people were not happy with the direction, and that there was a lot of tinkering happening behind the scenes to bring it in line with various people's notes.
Yeah, it is very fascinating. I mean, it seems that this is not a popular episode within the fandom.
That was really shocking to me, because I will admit straight up, this is one of my very favorite episodes of Xena. I think it's like a quintessential Xena episode. And I'm amazed that fans apparently had a very, maybe polarizing
it's polarizing.
What did they say? Or should we talk about that later?
Well, we will get into it for sure. And I can see part of their problems. Because polarizing is a really good word for this episode, as it really has 2 distinct, what's the word?
Tones?
Tones.
But it marries them in this really amazing way that is pure Xena.
Yeah, I was just about to say. Same thing.
I guess, yeah. I mean, we have for sure mentioned that Xena, the show, is master of tone shifts. This one is for sure
the
biggest master. The biggest tone shift. I don't know if technically I'm on board entirely with some of it.
Okay.
You don't think it's successful at the tone shifts, or just you don't like certain...
Well, we know Vera hates the Three Stooges stuff always.
Yeah,
well,
and it was full of it, so it was a little bit of an issue for me. We'll get to it.
We'll get to it for sure.
We've previously mentioned the sensual music, because we are back in the club, and we have 3 new dancers.
We do.
As the cinematic masterpiece showgirls called they're not strippers, they're dancers, even though it's technically supposed to be a little bit of a striptease without actual clothes being taken off.
Is it really?
Like for Aries?
Aries is enjoying a show. I think that's supposed to be a strip club scene.
It's funny, though, because they're deliberating on some evidence he has just presented.
The way you deliver...
That's how they do.
The way you deliberate evidence, apparently, is to dance it out.
Yeah, give him a lap dance.
Yeah.
That way he'll be happy with your verdict, no matter what.
So we meet the Furies, who are opposites of the Sirens in the sense...
In styling.
In styling and in how they are in general.
You like them.
Well, I mean, we previously discussed that the Sirens are backup singers. Mm-hmm. These ladies are dancers.
Backup dancers.
Backup dancers.
All right.
What do we think of their look?
Again, opposite of sirens. That was a blue ship because of dealing with the water.
And this is just strips of clothing? What?
Strips of clothing, but they're red.
It sort of works.
They
They're
look
like,
fun.
they looked all, like you say, strips, kind of ripped up. There's a violence in that costume.
Ooh.
Strip tease, y'all.
Yeah.
I think it definitely works. They have like crazy, big hair, and even the short-haired main one, Electo, she had like teased out hair,
Yeah, I love that they have like this really intensely gray makeup contouring that's really fun as well. They look very chaotic.
Yeah,
It's appropriate.
I think that was the point. Yeah.
I was doing some research on the Furies in Greek mythology, and they're older than the Olympians, which I didn't realize. They're this
Wow.
much more kind of primal figures.
Are they older than the Titans?
I think they are related to the Titans. They're like the Titans' first spawn,
Okay.
pre Zeus and company.
That's cool. I have to say that I enjoyed the Furies throughout the show,
Yeah.
specifically later episodes of the Furies.
Well, we've talked about subject matter that prefigures the Furies. So much of Xena is about vengeance. And it's great to have these goddesses of vengeance suddenly coming in season 3, which is a very appropriate place to meet them.
Huh. Yes, it is.
So Aries is kind of lounging on this throne of sorts and watching the ladies
And he
deliberate.
is not reacting. He has such a poker face to this.
He has a poker face, but I feel like he's, not allowing himself to show any kind of enjoyment. But I think he's digging the show.
I feel like he sees this as stalling. He's like, stop the lap dance and tell me whether you're going to do what I want.
It's true. I do think that he was really wanted to be in and out.
The only boner he has in this scene is for Xena.
Oh, where are you?
I'm from New
Kiwi,
Zealand.
all of a sudden trying to do an American accent? Or from Boston? 'Cause I would do that as well.
Nice. Katie's from Boston, so
Yeah.
she's New Zealander in spirit.
So I have a note, speaking of Katie, that is just a quote while watching these ladies dance. Is this even sexy?
Oh. Yeah, I said that.
I don't think it exactly is.
I think mileage varies.
I liked
on
when
it.
I was watching. My favorite shot of that is that, well, it's like when they do the spell. Electro does this kind of twist on her foot, and then the camera cuts to a completely like God shot of it. And so I really love the movement from one shot to the other.
Cool.
The God shot I thought was really cool in general.
I like seeing them dance in the God shot.
Yeah.
Aries wants a judgment on Xena, and the Furies agree.
That
and
she's guilty.
Yeah, she's guilty.
She did it first.
Dun dun.
Thumbs down.
They literally thumbs down her.
4 thumbs down.
Which is the Roman way of deliberating, right? That's how they do the sentencing in the gladiatorial pit.
Indeed.
Because you watched Gladiator, the movie once.
No, I've seen Spartacus, y'all. So yeah, I thought that was interesting that this gesture associated with Rome was being practiced by the Furies.
Everybody does it now on Netflix, too.
That's true. Thumbs down, Netflix, you took off Xena.
Typically, the punishment that the Furies dole out is either persecution or madness, but Aries wants both.
Why not both?
And they agree! So while this is happening, what are Xena and Gabs up to?
Being adorable.
As always.
They are in a race.
Yeah.
They're putting a wager on a race.
Yes.
Gambling.
So Gabrielle is challenging Xena to like race to a cypress tree, I think, in the distance. And they're putting various bets on who will win. I think it starts with Gabrielle being like, if I win, you have to make breakfast for me tomorrow. And Xena's like,
You call that winning?
yeah, which means Xena can't make a good breakfast, I guess.
Yeah, that's consistent with the cut stuff from Sins of the Past.
Oh, good.
There was the sad campfire scene of Xena alone trying to make herself dinner. And then she decided to commit suicide.
Oh, no. Then she's like, okay, Xena, you can go collect firewood for a week. And, like, that works out. But Xena says, then my favorite thing of maybe all times, which is, if Xena wins, Gabrielle has to make the little dumplings with the red stuff inside. And it's just like, oh, please make them. Yeah. It's the best thing. What are these little dumplings? I want to eat them.
She does not want to make them, it seems. Like, she doesn't like making them.
Maybe they're very labor intensive.
Yeah. Or maybe she doesn't actually like eating them.
Why would she make them in the
first place? This is a dish she cooked.
A treat for Xena.
Aw.
And also, if you watch it like I do, Xena goes to grab her arm in the, like, begging Gabrielle to make these dumplings, but really it goes for her back first and then switches really quickly to her arm. Carry on.
All I know is that I want to eat these dumplings with the red sauce.
What do you think it is? What is the red sauce?
What
like
is
berries or like beans?
I don't know if it's sauce, it's red stuff.
Yeah,
red stuff, yeah. What is it?
Is it meat?
It's raw meat on top of some dumplings.
Red sauce.
Anyway,
I love this because it's just really nice and sweet, and I like little insights like that. Gabrielle making dumplings. Xena bad at cooking.
Very domestic.
Very good.
So Gabrielle gets a 3 paces lead start on this race, and she starts running. She's certain she's going to win, but of course, Xena extras right by her.
She flips it out.
Doing flips. Yeah.
Which was not fair. I agree that it was a little bit cheating. If they were supposed to be doing a foot race.
She used her feet to flip.
Yeah, but if they're just running.
This proves...
I guess she should have specified.
Yeah, it's true.
You cannot flip.
But does this prove that flipping it out equals actually being faster than running?
I think she would have beat her running.
Like, every time we see her flip it out and, be extra Xena-like in every episode. And we're like, why can't she just... normal and run? Like, is it literally because this is faster and more efficient?
Faster.
It seems to be for her. I think if any other human were to try it, it would be a lot slower.
Yeah. Some goons show up, and they're there to collect a bounty.
Yeah. There's the goon reveal is really fun.
Right, because Gabs doesn't see them at first. She thinks that Xena's pulling a sword on her because Gabrielle... was being Gabrielle.
Yeah, and basically. They were arguing about cheating and such.
But she did cheat.
Well, yeah, but Gabrielle cheated too. She took those 3 paces for her head start, but then took a few more paces, hoping Xena would notice. So,
I think that's allowed.
Come on.
That's allowed.
So as Xena's fighting these goons, we cut to the Furies, who put their madness spell on her with a little ditty of a poem.
Oh, man.
Right, yeah.
I wrote it down.
Of course.
Go for it.
Oh, demons of the soul, over Xena's reason roll. Replace sweet illusion with the poison of delusion.
Nice.
To Xena's head, do not be kind, for it's your job to make her lose her mind.
Y'all, they were not kind to her head. We gotta do a countdown of, like, how crazy her hair gets.
Whenever any of this stuff happens, the main... way you can tell Xena's not in her right mind is her hair just gets super bonkers.
Literally, maybe my least favorite part of the entire show is when her hair goes crazy.
I love it.
No,
it feels real.
No, it does not feel real. What are you doing? Like, if you go crazy, the first thing you're doing is teasing out your hair.
She's not brushing it.
Why is she brushing it constantly in the middle of the day?
It just goes real bonkers real quickly.
It's real bonkers.
Anyway.
Well, I like that this little poem mentions illusion, which seems to set up illusion.
Nice.
Yeah. Her hair is really nice in that one.
Yes. She's not crazy in it. She had time to blow it out. So how does Xena's madness manifest itself?
Stooges. She stooges it out.
It manifests in even more extra Foley in this thing. Really, 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 really Three Stooges taken directly from, it sounds like, almost. It's not, this is different than the usual whooshes and such. They're really doing the, like, I'm trying to describe it, and the only way to do it is, like, to make the noise, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and then the way she acts, too, is very, like, immediately out of the Stooges. And her fighting is to match these sound effects, obviously.
Right, she, like, kisses up a guy's arm, like, she's kind of mugging.
Lots of, like, eye pokes with the 2-finger, like, nose grabs, all that stuff.
So, and Vera, you're not entertained by
Oh, man.
these comedy stylings.
Oof.
No.
Would I have loved a serious take on Xena's madness?
But you get that
You get
too.
it for a second. You get it like a slight, like, yeah, you get it. But
You
like,
get it several times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all right.
It's a balanced portrayal.
Dramatic.
You get the comedy part first when it doesn't seem as serious, and then it slowly changes gears, and that's what makes the sad part so upsetting.
We can bring up now what some of the beefs were on Whoosh with this, and they had a good point. They mentioned blind faith and how Xena's blindness was treated there. It was not treated for jokes, because literally they could have had her, going up a tree, boing, like stuff like that.
Yeah, we touched on that when we were talking about the episode too. That it could have been played for laughs.
Right, and it wasn't. So it is very fascinating that here it very much is played for laughs.
Well, the subject matter of this episode, unlike Blind Faith, which was a light episode that treated Xena's blindness seriousness, this is a very heavy episode that chooses to treat Xena's madness initially as a joke. I think that is the appropriate choice. If they had gone straight in and had this be madness, I guess as we understand it, as mental illness, rather than Three Stooges, which is in no way what mental illness actually looks like, it would have immediately made the episode not Xena, warrior princess. It just would have been this very grim, sad story about her being driven mad to kill her own mom.
You're describing an amazing episode of Xena, warrior princess that could appear in season 6.
Hamlet, by most accounts, is a very serious play that treats Hamlet's madness, which at first is supposedly feigned. It's hysterical. He's very, very funny. For like an hour, it's a joke. And then it gets sadder and sadder and sadder. Doesn't make Hamlet a comedy. It doesn't make Hamlet any less effective as a play. It's just a way, I think, of easing you into the story and not immediately rebelling against it.
Why couldn't she act how she did for the rest of the episode, which wasn't severely serious? It was just not Three Stooges silly. Yeah. She didn't jump on a horse backwards. And while we all sat and laughed, where she's like, go horsey, it did not have to happen.
But it plays to Lucy's unique gifts. Like,
I allow Mavis.
So
Mavis can stay.
I mean, don't be ridiculous, Mavis.
It's the funniest
that
thing
can
in the
stay.
world. I think Lucy's so great at it that I feel like this was written for her, not just, for the show, for these grand ideas. It was written for
Rob, who loves the Stooges.
But Lucy is so great at it. I do think it's doing her a disservice to be like, this isn't fun and successful. And like, she sells the shit out of that Stooges stuff.
It's only really the fighting and the sound effects that is
my problem.
The other stuff is just funny.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's literally boiled down to how I don't like how extra silly the Stooges stuff is. That's all. That's just me.
All right.
That's fine.
We'll allow you. I'm more frustrated, I suppose, with what the fans were saying, that somehow this was like an unsensitive portrayal of mental illness. I think that's really missing the point for me, personally.
So what other stuff does she do during the Stooge fight?
I liked when she smelled her own armpit.
Oh, I love the smell of warrior sweat in the morning. I mean, that was great.
A lot of the stuff, honestly, didn't seem out of place for Xena as a sane woman doing.
Yeah.
Maybe if she were in Day in the Life, it wouldn't seem weird.
Well, the pinch questioning was a little out of character, I would say.
That was extreme.
That was amazing.
I love the question she asked. How old were you when you lost your virginity? What is the capital of Assyria? I think there's more you can tell us. Like, I just thought that was all really funny. And just, I love that season 2 started the ball rolling on these kind of subversions of the pinch, using it in these different ways. And this is, again, a new funny way.
Yeah. And obviously, in this crazy comedy bit, Lucy's just going to town.
The best time.
I don't know how much of this is ad-lib, but clearly a lot of it is.
I would say that throughout the whole scene, Gabrielle immediately knows that she's being different than her usual self.
She's calling her Mavis.
And you do always have Gabrielle reacting in a serious way. She's not taking this lightly at all. She's very immediately concerned that something is wrong. Mm-hmm. So that kind of counteracts the comedy.
Yeah,
you have it from the beginning. Yeah.
But then Xena claims to just be hangry as an explanation.
You know how I am when I miss breakfast. Which, does that mean like sometimes Gabrielle doesn't make her breakfast because Xena's so bad at making breakfast?
And then Xena goes insane.
So she should.
But Gabrielle should know exactly what, the feeling of hangry feels like, because she
she's
herself
number
gets
one,
that way
hangry.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned the pinch, and Gabrielle is the one who actually gets the information out of the subject. He does say that they were ordered by a priest from the Temple of the Furies to collect this bounty.
That's the persecution part of Xena's sentence.
So now they have to go to this temple and figure this out.
I was pretty impressed by how quickly Gabs kind of figured everything out and became this kind of motivational force. It was like, here's what we have to do, Xena.
Yeah.
I feel like rather than be upset about it or panicked, Gabs was just like, okay, we have a plan. I feel like this was a very Xena-esque reaction to a problem.
Yeah, she really took the reins in it, but I loved how she had to literally beg Xena to go to the temple. It was pretty good.
But I guess the temple's really far away because the next scene is them sleeping at a campfire.
Gabrielle's trying to figure out why the Furies cursed Xena, and Xena's putting flowers in her hair because that's what she's concerned about.
She's making a flower crown.
It looks nice.
Because she loves One Direction.
It looks nice.
I loved the little exchange where Gabrielle says, it's terrible. And Xena says, yeah, you're right. I could lose the daisies. And Gabrielle says, I'm not talking about your look. I'm talking about what's going on inside your head. And Xena says in this just very by the by way, you don't want to go there. It's terrifying. Yeah. So see, even in this very comic, silly moment, there's this revealing, really deeply upsetting line just thrown in.
Okay, there's levels of silly, and this is an okay level. I'm telling you, the bottom is Stooges. That's the problem.
Okay, so we've edged away from the bottom.
Yes.
We're climbing up.
We're climbing the serious level.
Yeah.
So yeah, that moment, and then the way that Lucy delivers that line makes it legit. I mean, this whole upcoming scene is my favorite part of this entire episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine too.
All right, so Gabrielle goes to sleep.
We cut to a full moon, which is a great choice because the full moon used to be considered a force that would drive people crazy, hence lunacy.
That's where werewolves come from.
Right, indeed, absolutely.
Also, menstruation cycles.
Yep. All the things men's hate.
Gabrielle wakes up, but Xena is not there. However, all her clothes are.
It reminded me a teeny bit of Sins of the Past, her burying her weapons, the fact that they're just sitting there unnoticed.
Yeah, well, I mean, you bring up kind of what I want to talk about regarding this scene. Xena goes to a neighboring village and is accusing them of crucifying the women and children. She is standing naked with a torch, literally yelling at them with the intention to do something about it. Right. And as we mentioned, she left all her clothes and armor behind. You mentioned Sins of the Past, but what do you think is her thought process here?
Are you asking me why she took off her clothes
Yeah.
originally? Yeah, I think that part is perhaps the strangest. I mean, obviously it's partially meant to create this strange tableau. But yeah, I mean, by referencing Sins of the Past in that way, it feels like a destructive act. Like she's going to set herself on fire too. The fact that she steps in there with no weapons and no armor, nothing but this torch, it feels very kind of exposed and self-destructive.
I think that in her madness, where she's completely crazy, but the subconscious moments of clarity and truth that she does see are three things. One, crucifixion, which is maybe one of the most intense moments in her life. Two, Sins of the Past, where she, the biggest thing there was her being suicidal and ready to bury her armor and herself. And three, fire, all the various fires she's previously caused to warrant all these, her suicidal thoughts originally, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's really interesting that here, this is what she feels that she has to be doing.
Yeah. My thoughts immediately went to Callisto.
Yeah.
Fire, a village, women and children.
But she wants to burn it.
But she wants to burn it as punishment. So it's this weird mix of sort of being the perpetrator, but also being the judge.
But
and then the crucifixion, which, she was the victim there. Yeah.
Yeah, these are like the most, the moments that really scarred her, I guess, or really stuck with her to the point where they come through in her madness. So that's why I think this moment is just the most integral of this whole episode.
I think it's using madness in the way that great art often uses that trope, which is, it actually exposes the truth that you can only see when you're mad. That pain that Xena's been hiding can kind of come out in this almost like dreamlike way. All of the elements are mixed up, but those elements are each individually very true for her.
So she's standing there accusing this village of crucifying all the women and children. Presumably she's talking to the men. However, Gabrielle does find her and points out that this is only women and children she's talking to. There are no men in this town.
And the shots of the women and children watching her are very sad because they just have no idea what's going on. I don't even think they're scared because this is
literally a naked woman showed up in the middle of the night and is screaming at them about crucifying women and children in this town. They're like, what? They're like, the children are like, what? It's a little bit,
and they look,
humorous.
Disconcerted.
Yeah. They don't
maybe
see
a little
her
scared, but not.
I don't think they
not
see her entirely as a threat.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah.
But Xena starts crying, which was so sad.
Yep.
And realizes acting all over. Good acting everywhere. Everybody's doing all the good stuff.
Good acting everywhere. Don't know where to look. Too much good acting.
Yeah, it's absolutely just heartbreaking how Gabrielle has to explain this to her. She's holding her. Once Xena realizes that, this is a harmless little village, she breaks down.
I know that we're being very serious right now, but I just want people to know that in my notes, I have the worst handwriting in the universe, Earth. And I wrote hands on face, but it looks like hand on bay, which is also true.
Does Gabrielle kind of like cover her up as well?
Yeah, well, she takes the torch away from her and puts the torch down and gets a blanket, wraps her in the blanket, and then fixes her hair so that it's not caught in the blanket.
And Gabrielle leads her away, and Xena's just like, I'm in trouble, aren't I, Gabrielle? Which is just, melting. I'm melting.
So maybe I'm like beating a dead horse here, but the fact that we've gone to this like very emotional, heartbreaking place when literally 5 minutes ago we were doing Three Stooges, I feel like this is just a masterclass in acting from Lucy. The fact that she can modulate the character and do both these things almost at once, and it doesn't feel weird. It doesn't feel just like, two different performances. It feels like a spectrum of the same performance. That is awesome. And I wouldn't have this episode any other way.
Well, no one's going to argue at all about Lucy being the
Lucy.
Greatest.
And as we mentioned, the point is to be kind of polar opposites to showcase the madness. Again, it doesn't have to be Stooges. It's like the most memorable part, the crazy stuff.
Not this part.
When you see it, you're like,
standing is not the most memorable.
I think Mavis is
not part of the Stooges.
Yeah, I'm saying it's the most memorable.
I like every other part. Yes.
So anyway, Gabrielle starts leading Xena away, and she stops, and there's a brief moment where she looks at one of the village children, and just there's a close-up on her face, and she just whispers, "I'm sorry," and it's so sad.
Yeah, because what the boy is upset by is just her madness, her kind of looking upset, not anything scary she did.
Yeah.
She is the scary thing. Yeah. Xena and Gabrielle arrive at the Temple of the Furies, and we meet our priest, who is once again one of the Craigs who appears on this show.
Oh, right.
He's Craig from Spartacus.
Craig, previously seen in the Bells episode, Jacques Bells.
Oh, what was he doing there?
He was Craig Parker's dad.
Oh, wow.
Or possibly, no, it was his dad, yeah.
I really didn't recognize him there. I totally recognize him here.
Well, we had a whole discussion, so why don't you listen to the episode?
It's so funny because he's so young here that he looks like his own self in that prequel season of Spartacus.
No. Don't mention that. Look. Oof. All right. Well,
those ringlets.
Oh, God. That hair, yeah. So this priest explains what is up. Xena has to avenge her father.
Right. Who's dead.
Yes, he is dead.
Murdered,
yes. So she has to find who did it, and that's like the only way to get rid of the crazy.
This is sad for Xena because she did not realize her father was dead.
Yeah.
Hence, ties that bind happening in the
Right.
first place.
Do we have any ideas? Did we have thoughts on this matter?
Well, I definitely talked a lot about the significance of her dad's name when we
Right,
talked about ties that bind, Atreus,
Yeah.
which is the curse of the house of Atreus, which is Orestes' house.
Who is here in this episode?
Yeah, so I love how this all connects. You have this idea of bloodshed and retribution within a family unit, which the House of Atreus implies. So having Xena's dad named Atreus, who was killed by somebody in the family, that's a spoiler.
Yes, it is. But I meant, like, previously, did we ever discuss or mention whether we thought her dad was still, alive or not? Like, did he go for milk and never come back, or...
Well, that's what she says. She says he went for milk and never came back.
Did we believe this?
It never occurred to me watching the show to doubt it when she said that.
Okay.
But it's quite sad that Cyrene has been living this lie for so many years.
Oh no.
Poor Cyrene. Like, it must have been hard as the kids, like, ask, like, when's Daddy coming back? And she's just like, oh, when he gets those cigarettes, honeys.
I mean, I guess you just keep spoiling it, so should we just talk about what the actual reveal here is?
Yes, go for it.
I love Cyrene, you guys.
She's murderess.
The
Is she your
greatest.
favorite character, I think?
She is probably my favorite secondary character on Xena. Primarily for this episode.
Okay. Oh.
Because it's so fascinating. I think this just adds such a layer to her. I mean, she's already a badass. As you remember her introductory scene, she pulls a sword on Xena, and you're like, holy fuck. What you find out about her in this episode totally justifies that sword pulling. You see that this is a woman who has lived through some stuff. She is strong, and not just in like being an awesome mom and like dealing with her daughter's betrayal. Like, she had to make some really intense sacrifices out of love for Xena. It's really powerful.
I like later when she gets a boy toy, but that's okay.
Yeah, I like that too. She earned that boy toy.
So speaking of Xena's family, in the scene where the priest reveals that she's to avenge a member of her family, she immediately lashes out because she thinks he's talking about Lycius.
And you see how much that loss has sculpted her. Like, she is just so furious, pun intended, that anyone would say she was derelict in her familial duty to Lycius, because you feel like so much of her warlord life was her seeking vengeance for that. So she did her due diligence when it came to Lycius. Like, he is taken care of.
So this is the fourth kind of scar that I think kind of goes back to the scene where she's naked, I think, because Lycius is another ultimate mark on her whole being.
Psyche?
Yeah, psyche and whatnot. Part of the reason why this scene is so powerful is that Gabrielle keeps attempting to calm her down, and she swats at her in a really intense way.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
And as we talked about in The Price, you can chart Xena kind of going to a really dangerous place by how she treats Gabrielle. Once she gets impatient with Gabrielle and violent with Gabrielle, that's a Xena who's in real trouble.
Once she finds out that she has to avenge her father, she kind of loses it and runs out. And this is an amazing scene where she's running through the woods.
The camera work is crazy.
It is. I have a question.
Yes?
What are the screamy sound effects? What's going on there? What's happening? Is that her? Does not sound like Lucy Lawless.
What?
There's like weird, noises that just don't sound like her. Could be her.
Wow.
Could it be like some of these monsters that she's hallucinating? Like the heartbeat?
Maybe. I don't know. I just remember being very like, who is making that sound? And it seemed
well,
like
if
it
it's
was
disconcerting, then
Xena.
that's working.
But
they,
I was just like, what?
Scene.
I mean, yeah. It was just like a way different register of voice. It was
That's
odd.
cool. Yeah, well, I think this whole sequence is really cleverly put together to feel super destabilizing. Like, you're not sure where Xena is. She's running. It's like this weird succession of monsters from Xena.
Yeah, monsters of episodes past. You got your Bacchus coming out of a tree to torment her. Yeah, the harpies. I actually love this because it was pigeons. She like ran through some pigeons or something, some birds.
Oh, wow.
And the birds flew up, and one of them became the harpy.
So that's neat that she's reacting to these things in reality. That's
Yeah, like it's just a
remind
tree
her.
that kind of looks like Bacchus' face.
And she sees a blonde girl and thinks, Callisto!
This was the most amazing reveal, yeah. And instead you have, the cut back to, it's just Gabrielle, her hands up, like defense mode.
So we really have, I feel like, gone through all of Xena's huge hang-ups. We have Callisto now. We have Lycius. We have crucifixion. Like, all these things that really made Xena who she is. She's kind of inadvertently revealed to us through her madness.
Yeah. Her crazy hair level here is really high. It's like red alert.
She just ran through a bunch of trees. And like
The branches got it all messed up.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, guys.
I totally buy it.
Sure,
if anything, I don't buy why her hair looks so good all the time.
She's just born that way.
I feel like real Xena, since we all know Xena is a real historical figure, had really like big knotted mane of hair.
How dare you? It looks beautiful and it's braided nice. It is not
And it
crazy.
smells good.
Absolutely smells good.
They bathe a lot.
Yeah.
It would
They
smell
spend
good.
most of their time bathing.
She also fishes a lot though, so maybe it smells like fish too.
A little bit like bathing, a little bit like fish.
Oh no. Carry on.
Xena ties Gabrielle to a tree with some vine.
She does it for the vine.
What?
I don't know.
Vine is dead.
I know, I almost didn't even know what you were talking about. It like took me a few seconds.
I'm behind by a few years.
I get it.
And there's a really great, there's a commentary for this episode in the season 3 DVD set, and it's a couple of people, but one of those people is Liz Friedman, and she makes a really funny point here where she's like, so many people's fantasies come true, seeing Xena tie Gabrielle up, and then Xena leaves. And then,
Oh, she just leaves. She just leaves. Now is not the time anyway.
She has this line when she's tying Gabs up where she says something like, to the gods we're nothing but beetles and they kill us for their sport, which is a kind of paraphrase of King Lear, who's another Shakespearean figure who went mad,
God.
Vera. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful line. I'm glad RJ sampled that one. And that is totally true of Xena and Aries' relationship. You do feel like he toys with her a lot of the time.
I believe in that same commentary, RJ said that it is Shakespeare who stole it from Gabrielle.
Oh, poor Gabs. She should get the credit she's due.
Yeah. Xena is now on her way to Amphipolis, and she goes first through the goons' campsite, I suppose. She's doing a really crazy, like, aerobics walk. Like cheerleading band.
Like, she's talking to herself, or is she talking to, like, an invisible person who she sees there?
You'll never know.
Or is she talking to her arms, who she thinks are other people?
Oh,
I
think
thought
maybe
I thought that the first thing she said, I thought she was talking to her arm because I thought she was doing Evil Dead for a second.
Oh.
But it was
I
like
that.
It was just like a split second. So I just was like, that would be cute. I don't know if it's true, but it seemed like maybe it was.
It had a kind of Bruce Campbell-y quality, especially because, you know, he's so recently in The Quest was doing this, like, my arms aren't connected to the rest of my body thing.
Yeah, well, it was really funny.
I liked then when the goons try to fight her, thinking she's easy prey, and she does, of course, the Wonder Woman spin and just like punches them all out. And then does this war cry, which is like a rooster, I guess.
It was absolutely something to behold.
It's really funny.
Yeah, but what it reminded me of actually was Lost Boys from Peter Pan or Hook.
Rufio, Rufio.
Except Xena's a lost girl.
Xena. She arrives in Amphipolis, and you get like POV of the random villagers.
I love this because when I was watching it, I didn't realize she was in Amphipolis at first. So, like, all these random villagers kind of looking at her, I was like, are they actually looking at her and reacting to her? Or is this, like, has Xena progressed to the stage of madness that is paranoia? You know, does she just think all these people are looking at her and speculating about her and, like, talking about her like they know her? but then suddenly you're like, oh, she's an amphiphalus, so they actually do.
Which is always weird because I always feel like they're a billion years away from it. Not like they're a billion years away from everything and they get to everywhere really fast, but I always think that it is surprising when they end up in amphiphalus because for some reason I always think they're just really far away and they can just go to it.
Yeah, because you're expecting in every episode they're traveling further away from when they started.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you just seem like
alas, they just go in a circle the whole time around their two
they just
villages.
zigzag around. It's like, who cares?
And for those of us who love Cyrene, you're like, wait, all you have to do is like pop over to see Cyrene. She should be in every episode then.
Right? I thought these people were extremely judgy. I was really mad at them. Because, they're reacting to seeing not only Xena, who they already are kind of
really judgy about,
but like they see her hair. So they're reacting to the hair, which is now at like level 7.
Oh gosh. But you know what? Warlord Xena at certain points in her time had very insane hair.
No, that's insane in like an awesome way. You're talking about like crazy awesome hair, not crazy hair.
It's definitely big though. It's teased.
Not to this extent. This is like extra. It's like a creature from the woods.
Like teased isn't the right word. It's just been messed up.
Yeah.
You know how to get it messed up. You have to tease it out like that.
Yeah, but it's messed up.
It's literally like she
sounds like something you do on purpose.
And then woke up.
Like when you do that, it's on purpose.
When the hair department teased the extensions crazy and then stuck them in her hair, yes. Okay?
The makeup and hair people intentionally did hairstyling. Yes.
Yeah, to make it be extra nuts.
No, the trees did it, you guys. The trees.
Mm.
So I love that Cyrene, the second she sees Xena, is just like, oh, the Furies have cursed her. And Gabrielle is like, how the fuck do you just know that?
She's
looking
really...
at her. Because of your hair, your teased hair. That's the hair of someone who's been cursed by the Furies.
Of course, yeah. She's actually like, I've been dreading this day since I heard this happened to Orestes.
Yeah. Okay. Which I guess
who lives in the neighboring town.
I feel like it's like last week.
Yeah.
This happened to Orestes, and Cyrene was like, oh no. Ooh, yeah, your mom. I see. So Gabrielle asks her, oh, do you know who murdered Xena's father? And Cyrene's answer is, do you think that even in this state, Xena could kill her mother?
And the eyes is like, what?
Cyrene did it first, bitches!
Xena inherits that from her. I remember when we watched it, you basically gasped and was like, oh my god, Cyrene did it.
It's amazing. I mean, I'm not sure what story I expected this episode to be telling with the death of Xena's father. Like, it could have very easily turned into a whodunit. Mm-hmm. And that would have been, probably an interesting story, but nowhere near the level of, like, pure, oh my god, as the just almost immediate, perfunctory reveal that Cyrene killed him with an axe.
An axe.
An axe.
Really intense.
Yeah. She goes into basically tell the story of what happened.
This is actually one of my favorite scenes in the whole episode.
It's really beautiful. And the way it's shot is gorgeous. You have Cyrene telling the story, and Xena's in the foreground of the shot, but out of focus, and also not moving, as if she's catatonic.
It also is 1.5 minutes long.
Ooh,
and Cyrene,
which is really long time to not do anything.
Yeah. Cyrene and also obviously Xena can hold the frame, I think, so well. Like, it is just so tense. You're like kind of watching for every movement of Xena's face and every syllable that comes out of Cyrene's mouth. Yeah.
And it only what we call rec focuses back to Cyrene after she gets to the I killed him part of the story.
This was one of the 2 shots that stood out for me from Gilbert Shilton, our director.
What's the other one?
The other one is the matching the Cyrene in the foreground and Xena in the background. From a little bit later.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Shot to this.
Well, let's talk about the story. Xena was 7. Her dad went to Aries' temple, came back drunk and angry, and went to the stables to sharpen his knife because he said little Xena had to die. So Cyrene killed him so that he wouldn't kill Xena. I love this story.
Yeah.
Yikes. I feel like it's great in that it has all of these parts where you're like, ooh, I want to know more about that. Like, what happened at that temple? We don't know. Nobody seems to know.
It's crazy because in Ties That Bind, you know, she recounts this amazing memory that she has, like, of her dad and just all these nice memories.
Yeah, like doting on her.
Yeah.
He really loved her. So how do you go from that to coming back from this temple being like, I have to kill my daughter? We don't really know. It could have been a sacrifice. It could have been that he went there and was told that she was going to become a destroyer of worlds and was like, I don't want that for my daughter. I'm going to murder her. Or it could be something else. It could be the jealous rage that Aries hints at later in this episode. But,
Or something else.
or even something else. So many things it could be. But this story reminds me again of Orestes and the original sin that his father, Agamemnon, committed, which is why his mother killed him.
Right, which is why I thought originally hearing the story, I was like, oh, he was going to sacrifice Xena, because that's where my mind first goes.
Yeah, Iphigenia sacrificed by her father. So you see how closely Xena's story is mirroring the Oresteia.
Right, and Cyrene is basically like, yeah, so Orestes is in the neighboring village. Why don't you go talk to him, Gabrielle? So that's where Gabs goes. So we've reached that scene that we previously mentioned is the kind of companion to the one good shot that the director did.
You have Cyrene in the foreground, who, you know, has just told us this really upsetting story and is kind of processing having done that. And in the background, you have Xena, still semi-catatonic, and Gabrielle, who has resolved to go to this town to find Orestes and find out, like, what happened there and whether his story can be helpful for Xena. So, like, the scene when Gabrielle says goodbye to Xena is really sweet and sad and tender. I really loved the way she's trying to reassure Xena, who is catatonic and not really responding.
She touches her shoulders, and at that moment, you can see Cyrene in the foreground kind of, like, move her eyes. She doesn't quite look back, but it's as if she can feel that touch.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think it means? What's going through Cyrene's head?
Cyrene figured out that they're a couple now.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. That's Cyrene's side eye. It's like a whole story right there. She notices it. I'm not sure how she feels about it, but she certainly never says anything. So maybe that's...
She's more cool about it than, let's say, Gabrielle's dad.
Yeah, she's because Cyrene is a cool mom. She killed Xena's dad. That's the height of cool mom behavior.
For sure.
She runs a bar.
I mean, I wouldn't call it quite like a side eye. It's literally that she doesn't want to turn her head to look at them directly, so she's kind of like rolling her eyes back as far as it can go.
It's a very like thoughtful look.
Yeah.
It's like the look of someone who's like thinking really hard about something.
She desperately wants to know what's going on back there, but can't quite be in their face about it.
Yeah.
That's all.
One can side eye
without
it's
a side
not
eye.
Judgment.
Yes.
Just eyes have moved to
to the side.
To the side.
Yes, that's right. It's a judgmental side eye. So we thought that Xena was catatonic, right? But she heard everything.
Her line here is real sad. I didn't write it down. It's like, you know, mommy killed daddy. She's she's lapsed into little cynical, girl speak. Yeah, and she just pretends as if she doesn't care. Or rather, she pretends as if, okay, I've found the murderer. Now it's time for vengeance.
But she actually chooses to leave, to spare the innocent people of the village.
This was upsetting, her lines there, that she's a lunatic with lethal combat skills.
Yeah.
That's the name of the article I referenced in Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Oh, wow.
Side note. That's where that came from.
I mean, it's a great coinage. You are just like, oh. And, you know, just this moment of intense self-awareness from Xena, you know, in the midst of her madness is so powerful.
A lot of her cynical speak that comes from Shakespeare, really, it's
all
just
of it,
so
man.
good.
It all does.
It's just so good. It's really great when it comes from Xena.
It is. And I mean, I think it's totally warranted coming from Xena. I'm glad they've sampled Shakespeare as a way of narrating this Greek drama.
Yeah.
Like and Shakespeare borrowed a lot of his forms from Greek drama. Yeah. So it's all circular. It all fits. Shakespeare's writing about vengeance and about this sort of ambivalence to godhood. Like, this is stuff that Xena would totally sympathize with.
Xena goes to the cliffs and she's gonna jump. She throws her sword down, which I thought was really cool.
That, again, made me think of Sins of the Past.
Well, yeah, she's literally gonna...
She's committing suicide again.
For sure,
Yeah.
commit suicide here. And, of course, at the last minute, Aries stabs her.
He says it's such a tasteless, melodramatic way out of this life. I thought this was a hilarious choice of words because of Xena's cynical rant one scene ago about how she doesn't want to entertain the gods anymore with her theatrics. And here Aries is like, your theatrics are a little too melodramatic for my taste. So Xena's right.
He wants her to kill Cyrene. I mean, he's really pushing for it here.
Which is gross because Sirene is awesome.
Truth. Truth bomb. But Xena refuses to do it unless the Furies are there to witness it, which is a very strange request.
Yeah, I love that Aries' alarm bells don't really go off. He's just like, okay, why? It's a god thing. You don't need them. Okay. Aries is an idiot. I also really loved her great put down about I must be crazy, but you're beginning to make sense when he goes off. He has the same sales pitch every episode that involves a temptation of Xena. So he goes on and on about why, the warrior's outlook on life is the only real truth.
Yeah.
That if you're a tyrant and you warp reality to your will, then life has meaning and otherwise it doesn't. And you're like, sure. That's worked out for tyrants. Good job. Also in the speech, as previously mentioned, Aries has this very revealing moment where he tries to justify Atreus's actions by being like, he's a jealous man, and jealous men often hurt the child in order to get at the mother. So Xena kind of has a moment where her ears prick up at this word jealous. Like, there's nothing, in Cyrene's story to suggest that Atreus was jealous. This becomes important in the next scene.
Of course. And I feel like even the audience at this point is like, that's a weird phrase to use here.
Yeah. It's just a weird thing to say. Yeah. Like, why would my dad do that? Oh, jealous people often do that.
Yeah.
Like,
what? That word is clearly standing out in that sentence. So Xena makes Cyrene recount the story of her conception.
As everybody does with their mom at some point. I love how Cyrene is kind of like annoyed at having to do this, but goes right into it. Like, doesn't protest too much. She's like, well, it was fun, okay? It was good.
Xena basically was like, was it good?
The most important takeaway, though, is that he showed up one night from war, randomly and unexpectedly, was just there.
The dad, that is.
Which is a classic god MO.
Oh my god, that's like Zeus.
Cyrene's lucky he didn't appear in the form of a swan.
Or like a bull or something.
Yeah, no thanks.
Why do they then fuck them?
I don't know.
That's the question.
I think Zeus is like, they won't ask any questions if you're a swan. If I appeared as a god, they'd be like, oh no! But as a swan, they're like,
sure, let's do this.
Like, I love all the choices by the actress playing Cyrene. Because it's so believable. It's ridiculous, the story this poor woman has to tell. But she just makes it seem like a totally normal thing. And she's kind of like up in arms that she has to even say it, because that's how normal it is that she slept with this man who like had been away at war for 10 years, but he was there that one night, okay, and she had a great time.
God. Like that. Yeah, it's amazing. Meanwhile, Gabrielle finds Orestes in the neighboring village, and he's not just like hanging out, cured from being crazy by the Furies. He's in an insane asylum. He does not have crazy hair, guys. It needs to be pointed out.
I didn't notice. It's
just
scraggly.
Long. It's long, but it's not teased.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. He doesn't have any hairspray.
Xena stole it all for her hair.
But the important takeaway from this is that if you kill your own mom, you get cursed by the Furies for having done that.
Yeah.
So
it's a catch-22.
It's a catch-22. Don't commit matricide because your mom killed her husband, decide.
It's just murder. We're now in the Temple of the Furies because the Furies have to witness Xena killing Cyrene. Cyrene is strapped to this altar.
Which is totally
Ready to
the
be-
runway.
Yeah,
that
isn't
they're
it all?
on.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I was like, that's covered in Fury sweat.
This is a fun cut to commercial with Xena about to stab her mom.
She's
screaming.
She just shrieks. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like this primal scream. Ooh.
Maybe she's gonna do it.
And on the soundtrack, there's like a female vocalist kind of just going like,
Does she do it, guys?
No.
She does not. She at least feigns that she has forgotten what she's there to do, and someone needs to remind her.
But also Gabrielle runs in and is like, don't do it!
Right, and Aries grabs her, and Xena kind of sneers because Aries is like manhandling her and like gagging her mouth, and Xena's like, yeah, sometimes that's the only way to shut her up. And like it's always sad to me when Xena's mean to Gabrielle.
Yeah, she's mean to her in this one.
Like crazy Xena is a little bit cruel. I mean, she's pretty cruel to Cyrene as well. She takes no prisoners.
I love how whenever she referred to Cyrene, it was all the words for mother, basically, that she used. She alternated like mom, mommy, mother.
And they all felt mocking.
Dad. Yeah, exactly.
Which again seemed very Hamlet to me, that you're like, emphasizing how familiar you are with these people, almost as a way of showing how little you know them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was a cool choice. Then she starts calling Aries daddy.
Yeah.
Which is also like what I'm talking about with Hamlet, but then it's a sex thing.
Go ahead and elaborate.
Well, she just keeps doing her sex voice and calling him daddy. That's my elaboration.
Thank you for clarifying that sentence. So she reveals at this point that she understands what he meant by jealous in the sense that he's her dad. And he's kind of like shocked by this. He's like, what? Like, LOL, that's crazy.
But it's a little bit of a gentleman protests too much situation.
But he also seems very, very, very shocked and surprised by this.
And kind of weirded out.
Yeah. Like, he just seems genuinely surprised.
So the audience of this is the Furies and also that temple priest guy.
Oh, yeah, I love that he's in there, too.
Yeah. And they're like, what? What's going on here? Because Xena's like, oh, I can't really do this vengeance because my dad's alive. And
I feel
he's
like it's
right
like
here.
one of those like outbursts in Judge Judy where they're like, they think they're arguing one thing, but then somebody stands up and it's just like, no, it's actually about this. And everyone's like, wait, that's this.
But now it turns into a Jerry Springer fight, really.
Yeah. It does. It suddenly becomes, I mean, it always was a family squabble, but now it becomes an even bigger family squabble.
They reveal the paternity test, and the fight with the chairs happens between Xena and Aries.
So Xena makes this case against Aries, and the way that she does it is by enlisting Gabrielle to do what she calls the bard thing. Which means that Gabrielle has to do a lot of exposition about how sometimes gods appear as departed soldiers to have a nice one-night stand with somebody's mom. And it was good, okay?
Oh my god.
And once again, Cyrene has to, like, affirm that this happened to her, and she does not look happy about it, that she has to tell total strangers about her sex life again.
As she's strapped down on a runway.
Yeah.
And then Aries and Xena start fighting basically on top of her, where there's
That
like
was-
this overhead shot of like their arms like
It's
like ninja chopping.
That's the
Like-
third best shot that this director did. I loved that shot. Cyrene is like,
I can't help but notice that
completely
all three of these shots
jerking.
that you flagged have Cyrene in them.
Yeah, I mean, she's awesome.
Yeah.
So
And she's never just like a plot device, which she could have very easily been in this episode. Like, she could have been the damsel in distress. You're like, oh no, don't kill your mom, that's bad. Look how sweet she is. Cyrene isn't exactly sweet.
Cyrene is thankfully a very fully fleshed out character, and she's her own character.
Yeah, so I love that she's just like, don't ninja chop on me. And Aries falls on top of her, and Xena's like, makes some sexual comment that's really embarrassing for everyone, honestly.
Yeah, it was really bad.
So Xena sort of says to the Furies, like, I'm gonna fight Aries, and like you'll see that I must be his daughter because I'm just as good at combat as he is. What's interesting about this fight is that it is very symmetrical. Like every skill Xena trots out, Aries does it too, and vice versa. Every ridiculous thing that Vera hates about fights on Xena. They like climb the wall, they end up on these flag masts, they're like kicking the shit out of each other, they're doing like uneven bars on the flag mast, and they're like
jungle gym.
They do like the jungle gym like walk with the hands. Aries like falls off and then like flips upward with the banner, which is such a kung fu move, like to do that. It looked pretty, it looked nice. Everything here looks really good. The stunt work is
and
awesome.
Totally everything here is from some kind of kung fu movie. For sure.
This again felt very Sins of the Past, and that you have a fight that's
crazy,
almost for
really
an
long.
audience.
Yeah, a really long, completely unnecessary fight. What's more unnecessary, this or the Stooges? It's a tough one. I will never be able to answer.
Using Gabrielle as a joke shield.
Oh right, yeah,
which
that happened.
Is worth it.
Didn't she say just kidding though about that?
Yep.
Yeah, she doesn't actually use her as a shield, thankfully.
Well, Xena wins.
Hey,
you get the famous gif. I win.
Xena wins, and somehow because she wins this, she is declared to be Aries' kid. That's how paternity tests work.
Back in the
when
day.
you're the Furies, and they drop the case against her.
Thumbs up.
They thumbs up. She's not mad anymore. She's not persecuted anymore. She eats some fruit to celebrate and spits it out because it's rotten. Because what's his face? Craigie from Spartacus has been giving the Furies rotten fruit. Yeah. I thought this must be an improv. It was so random.
But then they went with it full blast. Like the episode literally ends on that beat.
Is it any kind of in-joke as to like food that they put out for them to eat that's like not great? Yeah, it didn't really make sense. I was like, what's happening with this fruit? I don't know.
I like that. I can totally see that being the case. Yeah. Who wants to put out really nice ripe fruit?
You know,
just to like be in the background of shots.
It's been sitting there all day
under the hot lights. Yeah. So, guys, the $1 million question: do you buy this?
Well, Aries says you don't really think I'm your father, do you? And Xena says it doesn't matter.
It kind of does, though.
It matters a little, and I think that the fundamental thing that it matters for is that she's either half god or not.
Yeah.
And also from the writer staff's perspective, can they still be doing all these episodes where they're trying to make them have sex?
It's ancient Greece.
Ancient Greece.
Greece.
They're all greased up in ancient Greece.
Lightning.
It's ancient Greece.
But also networks. So I don't know.
The networks, and now talking about the problems this production faced, it sounds like the network had a lot of pushback. They did not like it going in this direction. The script had it being much more emphatic that he really was her father. They changed that.
But the network's problems were because then you couldn't ship these two, right?
Yeah. I mean, the network was afraid of incest, I think.
Right.
That was their problem.
They were like, they're still going to ship them, but then it would be bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they gave the network note about, well, Xena as a demigod isn't as interesting and powerful as Xena.
Do you think we should be more angry at the fact that they care more about the sexual tension between, these two actors versus the plausibility of this character's entire construction being shifted here? Like, she would become Hercules.
Yeah.
Basically.
No, we don't want her to be Hercules.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely more important to me than the incest. Yeah, I feel a little bit conflicted here because I really love this episode, as I've said. I like the stuff with at least inviting the possibility that he might be her dad. And I think a big reason why I like it is because I love Cyrene. So I feel like it gives Sirene a prominence in the story that I really like. That she had sex with Aries this one time. So it kind of connects her to the main plot in a really interesting way. I feel like had they gone this direction, there might have been more Sirene in the show.
You're making
I'm confused. Wait, Cyrene is more important for having sex with Aries and creating Xena than having sex with Xena's dad and being Xena's mom still?
Well,
why isn't she not important just for being Xena's mom?
What I'm saying is that one of the major plots of Xena the show is Aries and his thing with Xena. To involve Cyrene in that plot would give Cyrene more prominence. Right now, she's a bit of a tangent. Like, they go to Amphipolis, like, once a season. I think by having her, like, by turning the Aries plot into a family drama that would, by definition, involve Cyrene more in the plot. Yeah, definitely.
Only if you had kind of rewritten the show to that includes some kind of long-term thing between Aries and Sirene, because right now it's not that Cyrene had sex with Aries, it's that Aries had sex with Cyrene in the guise of her husband,
which is very bad and
one-time
gross.
very bad thing. So it's
well,
like
I mean, I guess you're asking me like for me, if I were writing this, I would have played that. I would have given Aries and Cyrene some scenes.
I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I fundamentally don't see a connection with her being more or less important. She's Xena's mom. She's important no matter what. She's Xena's mom.
Yeah, I mean, she's way more important than Gabrielle's parents. They don't even exist.
They don't even
That's
exist.
But I mean, like, I'd love her to be more involved in main plots.
Maybe
Like,
if there was no
important
dad at all, if she just popped out Xena like Mary.
No, that would be the problem that we all have with this idea, actually, of Xena being Aries' child, which is then she'd be a demigod, and she sort of wouldn't be as relatably human anymore, which I think is an issue with going in that direction. And I totally think they're right in avoiding that, in that, you know, it's awesome that Xena is just this woman who's really good at kicking and swords.
Kicks and stuff.
And she does practice for it, which we saw in Day in the Life. And she's good at what she does. And she has a history. And you never need to, like, wave a magic wand and say, like, she got it from this really powerful man, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, to compare it to Hercules, it's pretty awesome that you have her be able to kind of hold her own against him, and he is a demigod. You know, he's privileged. He was born into it. She made herself, basically. And there's a really great quote from Steve Sears, who was one of the writers to push back against making her Aries' daughter. It boils down to this. I really wanted to believe that, no, this was a mortal who was special because she had the strength to stand up for herself.
That's well said. The one thing I do like about it, though, is that I think, besides the Cyrene stuff that I get that people disagree with me, and that's fine, is that I think it does add an interesting layer to Aries' investment in Xena, which is a little bit hard to distill as it is in the show. Like, why is he so obsessed with her? Is this just love? Like, what about her as a warrior is so powerful to him? I think if she were his daughter, he would see himself in her in a more literal sense. And I think that's interesting. I think they could have taken that places. So it's weird that I can like that, but dislike her actually being part god. I guess I like what it does for Aries' character, but I don't like what it does for Xena's.
I don't think about it very much because I just don't like it. So
I can see what you're saying, but I do have a problem with it seeing, like, just putting that on top of the show as is. So you would have to literally rewrite every single interaction between them to sort of reckon with this new notion.
I don't think it would have been that hard, though, because he's always been obsessed with her, you know, almost to the point of blindness. And we don't know why. In the end, it is a little mysterious. I mean, it's because Xena's awesome. Everybody knows that. Yeah.
I mean, if you boil it down to it, it's just because he's in love with her and she makes him feel weird. And that's it. And every single scene they're in is, number one, sexual tension. Number two, everything else. It's like it's always just that first thing.
Yeah.
So I would like a different...
You're saying not dead.
I'm saying I'm not really an Aries Xena shipper, so I prefer a greater, like I prefer like an interesting relationship first, and then maybe some sexual tension, even if it is father-daughter.
I mean, as Katie said, it's the greased.
Yeah, exactly.
You can do it. I just don't like it. I don't know. I just don't like it.
But yeah,
I think it does ruin some of the.
The problem is that it ruins kind of Xena's character.
And I like...
He might
first
still
and
want to
foremost.
fuck Xena, but Xena will not want to fuck
No,
him.
and I
Yeah.
like all that stuff,
Yeah.
and I don't want any of that
And
stuff
she hardly
ruined.
wants to fuck him
As
normal.
it is, yeah.
Sometimes she does.
And
But
very
it's her
occasionally.
type, you know.
Yeah, he's the ultimate bad boy.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's kind of a daddy complex thing, where like all her boyfriends are like pale imitations of him. Aries has his parting line, where he turns to Gabrielle and then turns back around to Xena and says really witheringly, "I still don't get what you see in her."
Great cut back to Gabrielle, making an excellent face at him.
But I like that Aries here is kind of canonizing Xena and Gabrielle.
Yeah,
Appreciated it. Thanks, Dad.
So both mom and dad know about them in this
Yeah.
episode.
And they give their blessings.
Well, speaking of which, the episode ends on a really lovely note between Cyrene and Xena.
Well, I love that Gabrielle leaves them alone. She
Yeah.
sees that they need to have a moment. So she GTFOs, and then you just have Xena and Cyrene. And Cyrene really wants to apologize. She wants to apologize for killing Xena's father. And Xena kind of, allows her to do that and gives this sweet speech about how she was always hoping she was going to run into him in places, that she liked her mom's lie that he just went out for cigarettes and never came back, that there was something consoling in that for her, which I thought was really moving. And Lucy really delivered that speech with a lot of power, I thought. And then Cyrene says, "Can you forgive me?" Which I can't help but think of bittersweet.
Uh-oh.
Forgive me is going to
Put a
become
pin in it.
a line
Yeah.
of importance on this show. Xena says there's nothing to forgive in this instance.
And it's also back to the sense of the pastness again, where she was going home to Cyrene for forgiveness.
Right, and
So
Cyrene
reversed.
was really intense about not
Not
giving it
giving
for a
it.
really long time. So you're right, having this reversal is really powerful. And I love that Xena is a good daughter and doesn't rub it in Cyrene's face the way Cyrene a little bit
Uh-oh.
did.
She
When their
was really
positions
pissed,
were
okay.
reversed. Yeah, I mean, she
She was ashamed of
she
it.
had a just cause. I mean,
Yeah.
what Cyrene is apologizing for saving Xeno's life.
Yeah.
So in the end, it's like, Cyrene really hasn't done anything wrong. I'm sure it was very painful for Cyrene and awful to be in that position. But she saved her daughter's life, and her daughter isn't going to hold that against her.
I also really love the music cue here, and I apologize if I'm wrong about this, but as I recall, it's the same music cue that last I took note of it was at the end of the season 2 premiere, where Xena does her long slow-mo walk away from Solon.
Wow.
That feels very appropriate.
Yeah.
Motherhood. Yeah. So the final beat is this idea.
What's that you say?
Uh-oh. Pins.
Yeah,
Pins everywhere,
exactly.
pins.
The final beat, motherhood, and this idea of going on stronger than before, like that the bonds of being a mother and a child's duty to a mother are stronger than almost anything.
And this was a cast off from season
God.
This is a season 2 episode, remember?
No.
And here it is setting up season 3 with all of the major issues for season 3, including vengeance, which has already kind of been put to bed for now. I think this is a great choice by them to put this out front.
It
to
makes
have this
so
last
much more
beat.
sense here.
Yeah.
It really does. It really gets the ball rolling.
And it's nice to focus on Cyrene.
Oh my god, really?
Wait!
Gee,
Really? This episode focuses on Cyrene?
No, but like as a mother,
What else about Cyrene could an episode focus on?
She's really nice eyes. No, but like she's a mom. She's
Yes.
sort of like the first mom we meet on Xena. She's Xena's mom. She's in the first episode. I feel like in this season, which is about motherhood, having this mom first appear and be an important figure to me feels very correct.
we meet Gabrielle's mom first.
Oh, that's true.
But she's a nobody.
I literally do not remember her.
She's only in it like twice.
I have to say that this show unfortunately missed. I don't know why they could only focus on like if there must be a mom, it has to be one mom. We can't do 2 moms.
I would definitely have liked to compare, like I'd like to have somebody to kind
Yeah.
of put Cyrene into focus and vice versa. I think, you would see Xena and Gabrielle differently Like,
Yeah.
to have that second generation there.
It's crazy.
We'll eventually get to Family Affair and talk
Yeah.
about the glimpse it offers into Gabrielle's home life. It's interesting, even though it kind of swerves having to deal with
Yeah, it's not
who
about
those characters
Yeah.
actually are. Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, Gabrielle only gets Lila. Like, that's only one member of the family can be developed.
I mean, this is so often the case in an adventure story, is that the parents are kind of surplus to requirements. You know, that's part of our fantasy life, is we all picture ourselves as heroes without parents. We don't have to worry about them. I don't know what this says about us, that this is something we do, but it's very common.
But I am really floored by just how great of a character Cyrene is in her tiny amount of screen time. Even compared to Lila, I mean, who also has a bunch of episodes, but she's not at all the same level of complexity. It's crazy.
This episode especially, I think, really gives Cyrene something where you're like, this lady has a hell of a past.
Yeah.
This lady has some secrets.
She's badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we previously mentioned in, maybe it was the first episode even, where if you have Xena, like, this is the only kind of mom she could have, like this awesome badass mom.
I mean, she could literally have turned around, like, when Xena was like, oh my god, like, you killed daddy, and been like, yes, I lied. You know, it's like, I mean, like mother, like daughter in this way.
So we like this one, eh?
I think it's great. I don't understand. Well, I do understand why the fans had a problem with it when it aired. But I think looking in the context of the whole show, it's key. Even if the ambiguity it sets up with Aries being Xena's father doesn't really get picked up on after this, I think it throws an interesting wrench into the works. It's a great episode for Cyrene.
Yeah,
and
I like it.
It's, I think, a very fitting opener for season 3.
How many Sirenes out of Sirenes would you give this one?
I would give it Cyrene.
Okay, I guess that wraps it up. So before we officially sign off, we have some very exciting news.
Yes, we do. What is the news?
We are launching a website. Well, it's actually launched already once you're listening to this.
Yes.
So where are you listening to this? I don't know. You should go to www.xenawarriorpodcast.com.
Correct. That's
And
the
you
name.
can find all the episodes and various other things there.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting and just kind of part one of fun stuff that we are putting on the internet.
It's like our hub.
Yeah.
But of course, if you don't want to go there, you can find us in all the other places.
Correct.
As per usual.
Such as Apple Podcasts, formerly iTunes. Please subscribe over there. Download and rate and leave reviews.
You might find your review on our website.
Mm-hmm.
So you should leave one.
Yes. We're on Stitcher and Google Play as well. What else? We do all the things on Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr, etc. So look for us everywhere, basically. Thanks.
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 The power.
The passion.
The podcast.